Hi, Nevada Virtual Academy. We're back. Proficiency exam, box and whisker plots. We love them. We love them all. We're gonna pass the proficiency exam. 26. Box and whisker plot below show the distributions of the points scored by two basketball teams in their last 20 games. Points scored, and obviously you have the two box and whisker plots. Number line to help you figure out what are the values shown in the two plots, right? Which is a correct conclusion about the scores of the two teams' last 20 games? A. The interquartile ranges are the same for both teams. Let's start with that, okay? I'm talking about how many games representing here? 20 games, right? So basically you have to think about scores for 20 games. Each team will have like 20 scores, and we can say that the minimum score for both teams was what? 50. What was the maximum score for each team? 90. And if the question will ask you the range, you guys know the range is going to be between 50 and 90, which is 40. What else I know? I know that inside the box and whisker plot, this line here, this lines, right, will be the median, which means left from this median will be 50%, or your data right for this median again is going to be 50% of your data, right? If I have 20 games, it means that on this side, on the right side of your median line, on each one of this box and whisker plots, you'll have 10 games, right? On the other side, 10 games. Let's see the first question. The interquartile ranges. Interquartile ranges is always, you know, the difference between the beginning of your box and the end of your box, because imagine every one of these parts, like the first whisker will represent 25% of your data. The first half of the box will be 25%. The other half of the box will also be 25%, and the last whisker 25%. The interquartile, where is the quartile comes from? Quarter, right? A quarter of your data. This is the first quartile. This is the second where the median is, and that's the third quartile, right? From 0 to the first quartile here, you have 25 and so on. The interquartile range is the difference between this part right here, this one, let me use a different color, this one here, and that one over there, right? This amount, I mean this range, this difference here, will tell you about the interquartile. That's for the first, for the bulldogs, right? But for the wildcats, that interquartile is going to be here between, what is that? Um, that's 52, 54, 56, about from 55 up to what is that 81, right? That's the interquartile range for the wildcats. Obviously they're not the same, so A is not good, is wrong. They're interquartile ranges, the whole box if you want. I mean, basically, if you think about what's inside your box in each one of them, that will be your interquartile range. They're not the same. B, the range for the wildcats is greater than the range for the bulldogs. What I said, the range is the difference between the smallest score and the maximum score, and it's the same for both. As you can see, their whiskers, right, start and end on the same, with the same values. So this is also not true. We can cross it off. Good. C, the bulldogs scored greater than 80 points in more games than the wildcats. Greater than 80 points. I'm looking at the bulldogs. The bulldogs greater than 80 points in more games than the wildcats. It looks like, um, if you look right here, outside your box, let me use a different color right here where I put this green here, right? 80, the 80 scores were about this amount of data, right? Well, if the whole green whisker here is 25%, that should be about, I don't know, let's say 12%, right? If not 13%. So the bulldogs scored above 80 80 score, 12% of their total amount of games. And I can even go with this, say, hey, this is 12.5. I got how many games in a quarter here, because I have 20, the total half of them will be 10. This green whisker will be 5 games, 12%. I mean, not 12%, because that's going to be, 50% of the 10 games. About 5 games, right? 5 games greater than 80 as a score. I'm looking now at my Wildcats. The Wildcats have, 80. The 80 is right here, which tells me that the Wildcats scored 80 or above 80, greater than 80 points in more than 5 games, right? Because this will represent, I mean, more than, I said 5 games, right? More than 5 games were here in my Bulldogs, and I was wrong, right? This green whisker is 5 games. Half of that will be like about, let's say, 3 games. I'm running it up to a higher game, so it'll be 3 games for the Bulldogs with the score of 80 or greater, right? While for the Wildcats, I got more than 5 games. I don't know, I may say 6 games with the score of 80 or greater, and for that reason, the Bulldogs score greater than 80 points in more games than the Wildcats statement is wrong, right? Because as you can see, Wildcats have like a quarter of their games above 80, while Bulldogs have about an eighth of their games. Obviously, we're talking about the same number of games, 20 games, a quarter is 5, an 8 will be 2.5 or 3 games if you want. Not true. And this leaves me with only one option, right, which better be true. This should be the right answer, but let's check. The Wildcats scored fewer than 60 points. The Wildcats scored fewer than 60 points in more games than the Bulldogs, right? Fewer than 60 points in more games than the Bulldogs. And looking at the graph here, you're going to say, well, that's wrong. But let me tell you something, guys. What I said, this point here in the middle of your box is the median, right? Let's use the same color. That's the median, which means from the lower score to that point, you have 50% of your data. When I'm saying 50%, I'm talking about, in terms of games, about 10 games, right? So 10 games lower than 60, or more than 10 games, because you see 60 is right there. When the Bulldogs scored lower than 60, only a quarter of your game of their games, which is less than 5, obviously, and less than 10 if you want. So that's why D stays as the right answer. And this is one way in which you can judge and approach a similar problem on the proficiency exam. Yeah. So just pay attention. Remember, the line inside your box and whisker plot is the median. Everything on the left of that line is 50% of your data. Everything on the right will represent the other 50% of your data. Range, the difference between the minimum and the maximum, basically the first whisker on the left and the whisker on the right, and so on. All right? Hope it makes sense. Thank you.